He was 12 years old. His body already carried more scars than most soldiers earn in a lifetime. Not from war, from survival, from the streets of Basilich, from the daily, grinding, merciless work of staying alive in a port city that did not care whether snobbies treat he's. Shows 100 nobbies workest allies you lived or died. He had a younger brother. That was the only thing that mattered. That was the only reason to keep fighting, keep eating, keep standing back up every time the street knocked him down. His name was Darius. And the city would not break him. Nothing would ever break him. Subscribe if you are new. A new League of Legends story every week. This one is about what it means to believe in something bigger than yourself. Basilich was not a kind city. No port city is. They are places of transaction, of movement, of people passing through with purposes that do not include you. For orphans, a port city is something simpler. It is a place to be forgotten. Darius and his brother Draven had been forgotten. No family, no name that opened doors, no protection, only each other. And for Darius, that was enough. It was enough to fight for. Every day was the same calculation. Find food, protect Draven, fight anyone who threatened either of those things. The street gangs learned quickly. The city guards learned eventually. Everyone who crossed Darius learned the same lesson. He did not stop. He did not back down. He did not consider the odds. He considered only the outcome. And the outcome he needed was survival. His and his brothers'. Everything else was negotiable. He was 12 years old and already built like something the city had forged without meaning to. Sharp, hard, unyielding. Something that had been tested so many times it no longer questioned whether it would hold. It would hold. It always held. The other street children knew this. They learned it the first time. Most of them only needed to learn it once. He did not enjoy the fighting. That is the important thing to understand. He was not cruel. He was not violent for the sake of violence. He fought because the alternative was losing. And losing was not something he would accept. Not when Draven was depending on him. Not when the city would take everything the moment he showed weakness. He had learned that lesson early. He had learned it so completely it had become part of who he was. You do not stop. You do not yield. You find a way. Always. Then Noxus came to Basilich. The expanding empire arrived the way Noxus always arrives. With overwhelming force. With the flag of conquest. With the clear message that the old order was over. And the new order had begun. The conquering commander was a man named Cyrus. He was good at his job. Good generals look for what a place produces, not just resources, not just geography, people. Cyrus looked at the two brothers. He saw something. The older one especially. Something in the eyes. Something in the way he stood. Something that said this one has already survived things that would have broken others. Cyrus offered them a place in his ranks. Darius accepted, not because he was grateful, not because he admired Noxus, because it was a way forward, because it was a way to stop running, because it was a way to become something other than a street orphan fighting for scraps. He was not naive about what he was joining. He understood exactly what Noxus was. Conquest. Force. Expansion at any cost. He had seen what the army did to Basilich. He had no illusions. But Noxus had something that Basilich had never offered. A principle. A real one. Not equality. Not fairness. Not kindness. Strength. The idea that what you could do mattered more than where you came from. That a man born with nothing could rise as far as his capability and his will could carry him. No family name required. No inherited title. No patron. Just what you were. Just what you could prove. For a boy who had grown up with nothing, this was not just an ideology. It was a promise. He intended to hold Noxus to it. The campaigns came, one after another, across years, across continents, across every kind of terrain and every kind of enemy. Darius fought in all of them. He was relentless. He was disciplined in a way that went beyond training. Beyond instruction, it came from somewhere deeper. From the streets of Basilich. From the years of making himself impossible to stop. From the understanding that half measures do not keep you alive. You commit completely. Or you do not commit at all. He suppressed rebellions. He led assaults. He stood at the front of charges that other commanders directed from the rear. He took the blows that lesser soldiers would have avoided. He got back up. Every time. He always got back up. His rank climbed. Not through politics, not through flattery, not through the careful cultivation of powerful friends. Through results, through outcomes, through the simple, undeniable arithmetic of battles fought and battles won. Then came the battle that changed everything. His forces were outnumbered. Significantly. The kind of numbers that, in any rational military calculation, meant retreat, meant regrouping, meant living to fight another day. Darius did not retreat. He raised his axe. He raised his voice. And he turned, scattered, demoralized soldiers into something that moved as one. He did not inspire them with speeches. He inspired them with the spectacle of himself, of a man who looked at impossible odds and found them insufficient reason to stop. They won, against all logic, against all probability. The victory was the kind that gets remembered, the kind that gets told in barracks and strategy rooms for decades afterward. Noxus noticed. He was given a cohort of his own to command. He was selective. He turned away soldiers that other commanders would have been glad to have. Only the strongest. Only the most disciplined. Only those with the will to match the standard he set himself. His reputation became a force of its own. Cities saw his banners on the horizon and surrendered without fighting. Not because of his numbers, because of his name, because of what his name had come to mean. The Hand of Noxus. The title came from Emperor Borum Darkwill himself. After the conquest of the Varjo, a proud warrior people who had held their mountain fortresses against Noxus for generations, Darius broke through. The Hand of Noxus. He wore it like what it was, not a reward, a responsibility, a description of what he was supposed to be, the instrument through which Noxus extended its reach, the blade at the end of the Empire's arm. He believed in what that meant. He believed in it completely. Then came Freljord, the northern campaign that should have been a conquest. That became instead a lesson in the limits of even the most overwhelming force. The cold does not negotiate. The cold does not respect rank. The cold kills generals and foot soldiers with equal indifference. Years passed. The campaign ground forward and backward. Territory taken. Territory lost. Ambushes. Attrition. The particular exhaustion of a war that does not end. He came back to Noxus to request reinforcements. He came back to find the world changed. A general named Jericho Swain had staged a coup. The Emperor was dead. Noxus had a new power structure. His allies had supported the coup. His own brother Draven had supported the coup. The noble families expected him to take revenge. He was the Hand of Noxus. He had the authority and the strength. He could have made it a declaration of war. He did not. He knew Swain. He had known Swain for years. He had argued against Swain's dismissal from the army. He had seen what Swain was. A man who believed in Noxus, who believed in what Noxus could be, who was willing to do what was necessary to move it closer to that vision. Darius had not taken an oath to any ruler. He had taken an oath to Noxus itself, to the idea of it, to the principle that strength, applied with purpose, could bring the world to order. Swain was moving Noxus in that direction. That was enough. The Trifarix was established. 3 ruling seats. 3 principles. Vision, might, guile. Darius took the seat of might. Not because he wanted power. Because this was the role that fit what he was, what he had always been. He built the Trifarian Legion, the finest soldiers in the Empire, chosen by the same standard he had always used. strength, discipline, will. The standard that had taken him from the streets of Basilich to the seat of Noxian power. The standard that was, he believed, the only honest measure of a person. What you could do, what you could endure, what you refused to give up. He was the Hand of Noxus. He had come from nothing. He had become everything Noxus promised a person could become. And he was not finished. He would not be finished until Noxus had reached every corner of the world. Until the empire that had given a street orphan a purpose had made that purpose matter. He stood at the head of his legion, his axe in his hand, his oath unbroken, his work not yet done. There were still nations that had not felt the weight of Noxus, still people who had not been given the choice. Join, prove your strength, rise, or be left behind. He intended to give everyone that choice. Every corner of the world, every city, every fortress, every stubborn, holdout kingdom still pretending the empire was not coming. It was coming. He was coming. And when he arrived, they would understand what Noxus actually was. Not the cruelty they feared, the order they needed, the hand extended, or the axe lowered. The choice was always theirs. He just made sure they understood the stakes of choosing wrong. If this story stayed with you, subscribe. Every week, a new League of Legends lore, the ones Denlo, who carried nothing and built everything.